Hey folks, today we're sponsored by LegalZoom. LegalZoom helps you incorporate or form an LLC with their simple questionnaire starting at just $99. Over 1 million entrepreneurs have done it. No surprise fees, no hassles, and no headaches. Their step-by-step process was created by a team of experts in law and technology. Technology experts. LegalZoom is not a law firm, but can connect you with a third-party attorney and provide you with self-help services. Don't put off the things you need to do. Go to LegalZoom.com now and use discount code MARON. That's LegalZoom.com, discount code MARON. Maron. Now on with the show.
Lock the gate!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers, what the fuck buddies, what the fucking ears, what the fuck nicks, what the fuckadelics, what the fucking ucks, what the fucking avians? Hi, I'm Marc Maron. This is WTF. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. I really do. I was going to read an email, I think. Where the hell did that thing go? Oh, yeah, I just got this one. Ed Begley's on the show today. Ed Begley Jr. You know the guy. He's that guy. That guy. You know him. You know him. He's that guy. He's been that guy for a long time, man. He's been in like every movie. Well, he's been in a lot of movies. You know him. Ed Begley Jr. Come on. Look, we had an amazing conversation about Hollywood. I'm a little fascinated. I'm fascinated with something. I'll get back to it. I promise you. All right? I wanted to read this email. This is in reference to me realizing, and not in a bitter way or cynical way or a megalomaniacal or grandiose way, that more people don't know me than people that do know me, and that's fine. I'm just happy that the people that do know me and like me are there. I'm not. I was never looking for global domination. I'm not an entertainment fascist. Don't know what I would do with that type of attention. Probably crumble. But I appreciate everybody who digs what I do. Can only do it the way I do it. And those who it resonates with, I am grateful for them. But who's this Maron guy? Subject line. That's in quotation, so I must have said that. I don't know everything I said. Dear Mark, I was listening to one of your shows today, Will Forte or Andy Samberg. I can't remember as I listened to them both back to back. And I was pained to hear you say that even with your recent successes, nobody knows who you are. Well, I just want to say, screw you. What are we, chopped liver? You have a legion of malcontented, unfulfilled, antisocial assholes that depend on you 2 or 3 times a week to reassure us. Not that we are normal, oh no, but rather that we are not so abnormal as to be completely alone in our self-imposed prisons of guilt and shame. We may not be the most glorious bunch, but we appreciate you sincerely, Mark in Portland, Oregon. Thank you, Mark. I do not want to make anyone feel that I'm not grateful for the people that enjoy what I do, and I certainly wasn't complaining. I'm happy you're out there. I would hope that some people are not as malcontent or filled with guilt and shame as I am or once was. Can I put it in the past? When can I put it in the past? When it goes away, Mark. When you're not sitting there asking yourself, is it in the past? I don't know. Okay, look, I know some of you are new to the show. You're new to me. You're new to my show on Netflix, Maron, my IFC show, which is now on Netflix. A lot of people are discovering me, which I'm prepared and excited to be discovered. But those of you who don't have the app, I mean, some of you have the free app, the WTF app, but if you don't have the premium app, which would enable you to stream all the shows, every show, all 460 or whatever, if you upgrade to premium, Brendan McDonald, my producer and partner, business partner, and myself we're going to do some behind the scenes talking about some of the more esoteric episodes of WTF and some of the stuff that was going on at the beginning when we first started doing the show. I know there's a lot of episodes that some of you skip over because you're like, I don't know that guy, but some of those are really the greatest episodes. So I think we're going to go like block by block in blocks of 25 or so and just discuss some of the more deeper episodes, the deep cuts of WTF with some of the comics and performers that you may not have heard of, and just kind of go through it and do kind of a Mark and Brendan's picks thing to guide you through some of those early episodes. So that's going to be available if you are a premium subscriber. You will get some of this premium content. There's going to be more premium content as the year goes on and some special shows as well. Just want to put that out to you if you're interested in that kind of stuff. You know, special stuff. Folks, the postage rates are changing again, so you've got two options. You can go out and buy new stamps and add the little 3-cent stamps to all your old letters. Pain. Or you can use Stamps.com like I do and let them take care of everything. With Stamps.com, you can buy and print official U.S. postage right from your desk using your own computer and printer. Wear a hat or something. Sing while you do it. The Stamps song. We should have a Stamps.com song. Stamps.com, Stamps.com. I'm putting stamps that I made myself on my letters. I have to work on the melody. Stamps.com always updates the postage rates for you automatically, and they don't charge a fee to do it, unlike those postage meter companies. So with Stamps.com, my friends, you'll always get the exact postage you need for any letter or package the instant you need it. You'll never have to go to the post office again, and you'll never have to worry when they change the rates. Right now, there's a special offer, my friends, for you when you use my promo code WTF. Start a no-risk trial with a $110 bonus offer, including a digital scale and up to $55 of free postage. Do not wait. Go to Stamps.com, and before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in WTF. That's Stamps.com, enter WTF. Where were we? Oh, my physical results. I don't know how much I told you about my physical. Had my yearly finger banging and ball coughing from my doctor, lovely woman. But you get those tests, you don't know what's going to happen. I don't eat shitty. I haven't stuck my dick into anything too weird lately. But there's that outside chance. It's like, I don't know, does something crawl up in there? Well, did you use a condom, Mark? I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't know. So what? Here we go. HIV 1-2 screen negative. Boom. Hepatitis C virus, AB result, non-reactive. Good. Chlamydia, DNA, SDA, report note, not detected. Good. Gonorrhea, DNA, SDA, not detected. Good. I didn't think I had any of those. Come on. Everything's looking good, man. Heartbeat's good. Blood pressure's good. Looks like all the urine-related business is good, whatever this stuff means. Triglycerides, normal. HDL cholesterol, normal. LDL calculated, high. Cholesterol, high as fuck. It says right there on here, cholesterol, high as fuck. I get this in the mail. Your cholesterol is very high. You need to be on cholesterol medication. Call to discuss your treatment options. What the fuck is that? Is it genetic? God damn it. When this happened, when I got that high cholesterol count, I'm like, holy fuck, I'm 50. I hate when that happens. Like, I'm just moving through my life. I don't have to, I see my cats are getting old. I understand that's a marker. I don't have kids. But the cholesterol thing just sent me spiraling. It's like, holy shit. Why should I even do any work on my house? How long do I got with this cholesterol? I don't know why I'm sharing this with you. I just want you to know that my cholesterol is a little high, and I'd appreciate it if you, help me not, eat bad things and make me exercise. I don't want to make this a codependent relationship, but God damn it. What am I going to do about that? God damn it. I don't like being reminded that my body is a fragile thing and is not going to last forever. Don't know about you, but I'd appreciate not to be reminded of that every day when I wake up. So Ed Begley's on today, and we talked about the era, the late 60s and early 70s in Hollywood. And I have got, I am mildly obsessed with that because I think a lot of my wiring was put in place by the pop culture of that time. 69 through 72 maybe, 73, 69, I was 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's important. I mean, my personality was in place, but I was already yearning for something dark. Then, thankfully, the big dirty hippie wave was crashing, and it was turning into just a rock and roll free-for-all. Just fucking dirty, long hairs everywhere, and I wanted to be one of them, man. I had a poster in my room of Dennis Hopper on his motorcycle from the movie Easy Rider. and Peter Fonda and Jack Nicholson on the other bike, Dennis Hopper flipping the bird. That was 1970. So I'm 6, 7 years old. I've never seen the movie, but I knew I wanted to be part of that. I had a mini bike, I had a Suzuki mini bike, and I had the American flag fucking Easy Rider helmet. That's who I was. That's what I wanted to be. I also, for some reason, for some fucked up bad parenting reason, my parents let me have the blacklight poster of the sexual positions of the horoscope. I'm 7, 8 years old. I don't know where I got it at Spencer's Gifts or somewhere. I wanted to be part of that fucking crashing wave of the filthy hippie 60s right into the rock and roll free-for-all. No ideological concerns. It's not about love and peace. It's about, let me put this in there and let me smoke some of that. And is that going to hurt me? Because it feels good. Right on, man. Free it up. Do you care about the future? Fuck the future, man. Let's just get on our bikes and ride. That was me at 7. So I get Begley in here in the garage. And I had no idea. Look, I'd seen his name on the wall at the Comedy Store. He did do comedy. He did do it back in the day. He was around in the late 60s, early 70s. His dad was a character actor. He's in some Westerns. He was in 12 Angry Men. But Begley was wandering around. I'd heard he was a little out of control back in the day. And you see Ed Begley now, you're like, that guy, the Prius guy, the guy who runs his house on Sun? But, you know, and he seems like a pretty sort of, not preppy, but sort of like conservative dude. But he was fucking out of control back in the day. And the thing that fascinates me about Hollywood at that time, Hollywood has always been an industry town. It's always been a showbiz town. And in every generation or every era in Hollywood, you know, there's always been tabloid, there's always been sordid business around show business. But for most practical purposes, it was a small town. It was a small town. There was a few networks, a few studios, a few labels, but it wasn't blown out. There wasn't cable, there wasn't a million stations, there wasn't a million production companies. So if you were running around the hills of Hollywood, you know, you were seeing, you know, the fucking groovy people. Wasn't all broken up. You know, if you had access, you were in it. You were in the Star Chamber. You were in the upper echelon of the freak show that was Hollywood at that time. It was a small town. And that whole Laurel Canyon scene in the early 70s, late 60s, it must have been so much fucking fun when culture was just exploding. Everything was new. You know, all of a sudden people could, you know, have sex with more than one person publicly at a party, and there'd be people sitting around laughing while you did it in excitement, perhaps masturbating, snorting coke and whatnot. Maybe that's the 80s. You know what I'm saying. Late 60s, man. I romanticized that time. It seemed like it would have been fucking amazing, and Begley lived through it, and I had no idea, but there's some stuff here, man. It's going to be surprising. Folks, make sure you get this year started off right by working smarter. Sign up for GoToMeeting by Citrix. It's the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate online. You can get together with clients and coworkers in person, even when you're miles apart. With GoToMeeting, you can get everyone together whenever you need to, no matter where you're located. It will help you increase productivity, improve communication, and cut back on the time and money wasted on business travel. Best of all, it's easy. Just sign up for GoToMeeting from your computer or mobile device and launch your first meeting in seconds. Share your screen to collaborate on documents, spreadsheets, and projects in real time. And turn on your webcam to see each other face to face. Right in the face. GoToMeeting is our go-to here on WTF, and it should be yours too. Start the new year with a free 30-day trial of GoToMeeting. There's no credit card required to get started. Visit GoToMeeting.com today. Click the Try It Free button and use the promo code WTF. That's GoToMeeting.com, promo code WTF. Do that. All right, this is me and Ed Begley Jr. Well, it's nice to meet you. It's nice to see you.
You too.
Ed Begley Jr. You're you're a guy that everybody recognizes.
I'm lucky to still be doing it since 1967.
Isn't that amazing?
Still working. I can't believe it.
I was just looking at your credits, and I'm like, oh, my God, where do you even start? It looks like you work every other week.
I can't believe at age 64 I'm still doing it.
64?
Yeah.
You still got them fooled, but
yeah.
But you're an efficient character actor.
I guess so. Yeah. I'm happy. Whatever they want to call me, I'm still doing it.
But you grew up, this was part of your life always, was it not? I mean...
Yeah, my dad was an actor, so I was around the sets and the backstage on Broadway, and I just wanted to do what my dad did. If he was a plumber, I'd probably be fitting, steel galvanized pipe or copper pipe now.
Yeah, and you'd probably be retired.
That's right.
And living an entirely different life.
That's right.
But I've only had one other guy in here that comes from that, and that's Cranston.
Brian.
Yeah, his dad was like a studio guy.
Yeah,
and and because of that, it seems like I don't think his father was necessarily, definitely not as big as your dad, but he's got a very kind of utilitarian kind of plumber point of view of acting.
He does.
It's kind of interesting.
It is interesting, and he grew up in the valley like me. He's from Canoga Park. I'm from Van Nuys.
Yeah, but his dad just went to work on the lot.
Yeah,
and he's got this very sort of, but your dad had sort of a larger career than that.
He did, but he was a factory worker that made it in his 60s, really. Started to make it in his 50s. He started to make it in radio and on stage in his 50s, to be fair. But then he really made it by winning an Oscar and getting really good roles in his 60s. He was a guy that worked at the wire mold plant in Hartford, Connecticut. And he wanted to be an actor his whole life. And finally he started to do it.
In Connecticut?
In Connecticut, yeah.
Like a dinner theater situation?
He was with a group called the Guy Headland Players there in Hartford, and he worked with them. Then he got a job at WTIC station there, and he did radio, and he did a million voices because his dad was what they call a hod carrier, an Irish kind of worker where they carry like two boards like this with a stick, and they carry either bricks or mortar up. They don't do the stonemason work, but they carry the shit up.
And his dad was that?
His dad was that. He was a strong lad, but he was a raconteur, and he did different dialects and what have you. So my dad learned that from him, and it served him well in radio, of course.
That's amazing. And then how did he make his break? I mean, how did it sort of unfold that he ended up in Hollywood? What was the process?
It was radio in Hartford.
Yeah.
Then he went to New York because he was doing well in Hartford.
Yeah.
And he did well in New York in radio. And then he started to do some stage in New York, and he did well on stage. And then, Hollywood beckoned, different movies, Boomerang and other movies like that, and Tulsa and Sorry, Wrong Number, and, he did a lot of those movies, and eventually, 12 Angry Men.
And that was the movie?
Yeah.
That was the big break?
That was the big break for all those guys,
Amazing.
Jack Warden and my dad and Ed Binns and, all those guys, Robert Webber, E.G. Marshall.
Henry Fonda had already been, he was already
He was an established actor.
Right. That movie still holds up. It's still great. Lee J. Cobb.
He was an established character actor, but that took him to another level.
That was amazing.
Amazing.
I mean, that's Lee J. Did you meet Lee J. Cobb?
I never met Lee Cobb. I wish I had. I know his daughter.
Your dad's friends.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, so your dad won an Oscar for that?
No, he won an Oscar for Sweet Bird of Youth.
Oh.
He won it in '63 for the year 1962.
I don't know that I've seen that film.
It's with Paul Newman and Geraldine Page. It's a good movie.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So you grew up in that home?
Yeah, but we grew up in the Valley. He had a lot of friends who were like ex-factory workers from Hartford, but then there was one family we used to visit when we drive up to San Francisco. We'd visit this old couple. And I was like, can we finish up with these old people? I want to get up and ride the trolley car in San Francisco. I want to ride the trolley. Who are these people? His name was Paul, and the woman's name was Bella. It turned out that was Paul Muni.
Oh, really?
And I was like in the presence of greatness, and like a 12-year-old. I didn't know.
Just old people.
Oh, you did a play with him? What was the play again?
Yeah.
Then I years later realized it was 12 Angry. I mean, it was Inherit the Wind, for which they both won Tonys. And this was a guy that was in Fugitive from a Chain Gang and many other. He was a brilliant actor.
Yeah, he was huge.
Well, what do kids know? I didn't know anything.
So you're a kid. You're growing up. So your dad wasn't like a major movie star, so you didn't have to.
No, but then he started to hit it when he won an Oscar. He started to go on to another level, and he had like a business manager now, and he had all this other stuff. And then he did a movie with Debbie Reynolds, and I, of course, knew Debbie Reynolds from Singing in the Rain and Tammy and all that. My dad's hanging out with Debbie Reynolds. We went into Beverly Hills, which we never went to Beverly Hills.
Right.
We didn't know those people. And so we're going to Beverly Hills and hanging out, meeting Carrie Fisher, and wow, she's married to Harry Carl at that point. They had this fat house with this big pool. It was like, Jesus Christ, what did I fall into? My dad's hooked me up here.
This is the big time.
Big time.
So that's when you met Carrie Fisher?
Yeah.
Are you guys friends?
We're still friends to this day. I love her.
Yeah. Now, all right, so you're in this, and you want to be this, and you're in high school, because you started acting, what were you? You were in your teens, weren't you?
Yeah, I wanted to be an actor and a comedian from the earliest age. My dad taught me some stupid joke that I would tell in front of adults, and they would laugh. It was a ridiculous joke, but I wanted to do what he did. And then finally, I did some theater in high school, and I did some other, like, summer camp theater.
Yeah.
And then finally, I started to work at age 17. But I didn't get
Disney?
it. The first job I did was My Three Sons.
Fred McMurray.
Yeah, I had one day on My Three Sons, and I literally thought, now that I'm in Screen Actors Guild, which I wanted to be in Screen Actors Guild my whole life, now I'm in SAG, I was literally waiting by the phone.
Yeah,
Man, it's going to ring now. Let me stay close to it. I just did a My Three Sons, and it just aired. That phone's going to start ringing.
But didn't your father give you the lowdown?
Oh, he did, but I didn't believe him. I thought he's trying to, like one time, I also was years ago a compulsive gambler. When I was a kid, we went through Vegas, and I said, put a quarter in this thing. I was convinced that I was going to win the jackpot. If he just put it, I was like 14 or something. Please put the quarter in the thing. He put it in, he had his back to me, and he did a thing and pulled it. He turned around and went, put his arms up in the air and went, see? You didn't win anything. I was convinced he didn't put it in. I was convinced so much of my fate that I deserved something, not having to work for it. It was the same with acting. I had this horrible attitude, wake me when I'm famous kind of attitude. I'm going to be a big star like my dad. Come on, get me a series.
So you track that sense of entitlement and slight compulsive delusion to the same thing that's sort of compulsive gambling to everything else?
Oh, yeah, I just like it, get me a dad. Can't you get me a Gunsmoke? Get me a Perry Mason. What's the problem? And I didn't get it. And I would go up on interviews for some of these. He got me an interview for Gunsmoke, for God's sake, or one of those shows, a Wagon Train or something. I went and read. I sucked. I didn't get the part.
Did you what was it for, like the kid on the wagon? I mean, what kind of
some sort of thing like that. And I didn't get it, and I was shocked. I didn't realize you have to train. Whatever, if you're going to be a plumber like your father, you got to apprentice, and you got to see how the steel galvanized pipe fits together, and how the copper is welded.
But he did step up and say, like, all right, I got a guy. Go meet this guy, the casting agent. See if my kid can fit into this.
He did,
but there's only so much you can do, right?
Exactly, and I didn't get anything. Then finally, he got me. I begged him. I wanted to take acting lessons, and he got me acting lessons.
With
then Paul Kent at the Melrose Workshop, and then after that, I started to work.
Now, what kind? Like Paul Kent. Now, was he a big guy?
He was not a huge, figure in the acting, in the acting lesson world in L.A. I later studied with some people who were very big in that world. I went to the Strasberg Institute. I studied briefly with Lee Strasberg, in a big classroom kind of a thing, not a little, 10 or.
But that was
people.
well into your career.
Yeah, that was a few years into it. 1970, I started doing that. Then there was somebody I met there called Peggy Fury. She worked there, and she was great. And she, great people like Angelica Houston studied with her later, and Sean Penn and other wonderful people.
What is the just for my own curiosity, because I got to do some acting tomorrow.
Oh boy, on what?
On my show for IFC, the show Maron. I did 10. I did 10. We're doing 13 more, and I look at myself.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much. I look at myself as an actor. I think I'm close, but I think I suffer from the same thing that a lot of comics do. There's a slight self-consciousness. So, what if you were to give me one pointer in terms of acting that I could be aware of, something that I could have in my head or enter a scene with, what would that be?
A couple things. And one thing, Spencer Tracy said it so well, acting is listening. If you're really, really listening, then when you next speak, you're going to be engaged, whatever the lines are. And then once you get it going, you're into the scene. Really forget about that. Did I get that line right and all that?
Right.
It's about what you're thinking. I'm going to get that guy to give me my goddamn $500 back.
Yeah.
That's the subtext. And the lines may be, have you been in town for the full week? Yeah. Whatever the line is. But the subtext is, are you going to give me my goddamn $500? Right. And then you'll be engaged with that thought. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Acting is listening. If you're really listening and staying with your subtext, then the words just come naturally.
Okay.
And the other thing, this is a great thing, this guy, Roy London, who was an acting teacher I studied with in the 90s when I was working on some show, and he said something that I dismissed at the time. I went, what does that even mean? He said, the most interesting thing to watch a performer do is how they deal with pain. I went, that's bullshit. I don't want to see somebody, I'm in pain. But it wasn't that. That wasn't what he was saying at all.
Yeah.
How you deal with pain, and you try to keep the lid on the pot.
Right.
Right. Meryl Streep in Sophie's Choice. You go, what did this woman go through? Then you later see what Sophie's Choice was and what have you. And it works in comedy too. Laurel and Hardy are carrying a fucking piano up the stairs.
Yeah.
And then they fall. Yeah. And not only do they fall, the piano falls on them. And you're laughing your ass off. Right. It's how they deal with that pain.
Right.
Comedy or drama. And again, you know, you don't want to say, oh, I hurt so bad. Right. You know, there's a time to show pain. There's a time to not show it. But that's a universal rule. You find pain is another word, discomfort, anxiety, whatever the word is for that scene.
You just described me.
There you go. You're going to do very well.
I got to hide them better, I guess.
You know, and if you look at any scene, what really engages you in Raging Bull and any movie that you really like, great movies, it's how these people are dealing with pain, emotional, physical, whatever. And that's what's compelling as a fellow human to watch somebody in this journey. Wow, that's how they deal with pain.
Interesting.
Maybe I'll use that information next time I'm in pain.
Right. That's interesting. Man, that's interesting to me that you said, like, you dismissed it initially. When you get older, isn't it amazing how all of a sudden something that someone said to you, you're like, ah, fuck. That wasn't bullshit at all.
It wasn't bullshit at all.
Like, well, those are the best things to hear, because it sticks in your head as something you fought against, and you know, like, know, that I'm not gonna, and then all of a sudden, but it's stuck in there for a reason. You know, like some part of you knew, like, that's deep. You just
all that stuff those old women said to you when you were a kid, the aunts, the grandmothers, you know, wait till you have kids of your own. That's sage wisdom right there, you know, all that kind of stuff. You'll learn the value of $1. Another brilliant statement.
Sure, and you don't give a fuck when you're younger. No. So, all right, so now you're taking these acting classes. What are you, 20?
Yeah, I'm 20 years old, 1970, I'm 20, I'm taking acting classes.
What's going on in fucking L.A.? It must be out of control, 1970, Los Angeles?
Oh, it was insane. From 1971 through 78, I partied hardy. I did everything you could do.
With who? Well, you don't have to.
Everybody. I mean, you know, everybody famous and not famous. I was at Tana's every night of my life. Me and perfect. There's a guy.
At Dan Tana's?
Yeah. You see the crossword. I do the crossword every day. Yeah. I talk to Harry Dean Stanton because he does it every day too, because he thinks it keeps his mind alert, and it must. I would see him every night. We'd hang out at Tana's every single night. And we finally, this speaks volumes, the story I'll briefly tell you about how much we were there. We were there at Tana's all the time, and we both got a movie together. This Warren Oates movie directed by Monty Hellman called Cockfighter, and we're in Georgia, and we're there about 5 days or something, and went, Harry, we should call up Tana's and say hello to Guido. He probably misses us. We've been gone when we were last gone for 5 days. So we call up Tana's. Yeah. Hello. Good evening, it's Tana's. It's Guido. Yeah. Guido, hi, it's Ed Begley and Harry. Hey, it's Harry. Harry and I are here. We just want to say hi. We're in Georgia. Yeah. Jesus Christ, I'm glad you called. We're going to call the police. I swear to God, we thought you guys die leave the gas on by mistake at Harry's house. We thought you'd both dead. 5 days, Jesus Christ, what happened? He couldn't believe we weren't there.
That's amazing. Well, that's like I've heard about what was going on there and what that place represented, that particular bar and restaurant. But who was there on the scene in that time? Like I mean, I know that Harry Dean still goes there every week.
Yeah, he goes there a lot. But in that day, I had heard by way of rumor that Jack Nicholson went in there. Yeah, and so I would go, and I heard he occasionally, once in a blue moon, even went into the Troubadour to see people perform. Yeah, so I went back and forth between the Troubadour and Tana's, hoping to see Jack Nicholson. My dream was realized. He came in he went there rarely. Yeah. You know, he wasn't hanging out all the time. He was up at his home, preparing for the next part and doing what he does.
Because he's a big star at that point. What,
big
5
star.
Easy Pieces?
Yeah, he done
Cuckoo's Nest was coming up.
That's right. Yeah. And so I saw him there. That sealed the deal. I just hung out there every night hoping he'd come back. Yeah. And I later became friends with him. There's a wonderful actress, a friend of mine, Cindy Williams, and she invited me because she was going with Harry Gittes, a friend of Jack's.
Cindy Williams from television?
Exactly.
From Shirley on
Yeah, wonderful actress. At that point, she'd been in The Conversation. She'd been with Travels with My Aunt, and this is before Laverne and Shirley, and she was and is a wonderful film actress. And so she somehow, I met Cass Elliot through her. And so suddenly I was invited up to Jack Nicholson's for dinners and what have you, and going out to the opening of the movie Concert for Bangladesh with Jack Nicholson and Cass Elliot was like, how did I fall into this?
You must be a good guy.
Well, I don't know about that, but I was certainly, I had a lot of fun, and I remember it all.
Well, they like hanging out with you. It seems like you have a lot, like, you always show up places. Even if it's for a second. You're like, was that Ed Begley on the drums in that
Spinal Tap?
Yeah, in 2 seconds in Spinal Tap?
That's right.
It was like, what was that?
Yeah. I love it. That's because of my dear friend Christopher Guest, and Rob Reiner and everybody, and Harry Shearer and Michael McKean. They're all friends of mine, so they brought me in to do the drummer.
Let's build up to that. So it's now 1972. You've already worked with Monty Hellman?
No, that happened actually in 74, but 72, I'm hanging out at the Troubadour. I'm doing like movies with Rock Hudson and Dean Martin. I did a Western with him.
And you're a kid.
I'm a kid.
Uh-huh.
And then finally, through people that
Rock Hudson and who?
Dean Martin.
Did you spend time with Dean Martin, or were you
a
just sort of in
bit of
and
time?
out?
He wasn't big on hanging out with me or most people. He had, he kept to himself.
I know. I read that. Did you ever read that book, Dino, by Nick Tosches?
No, I never read it. I'd like to read it.
It's fascinating because he really paints him as this guy that was very much a loner.
Yeah, Rock Hudson was very friendly.
Yeah.
Very nice, and he was very. Very nice. Dean wasn't rude, but he just wasn't as inclusive.
So you do that stuff, and why? I'm a Comedy Store guy. Why is your name on the wall of the Comedy Store?
I've left out a major chapter. I started a stand-up comedy career back in 1969 with a partner by the name of Michael Richards. We had a duo, and we worked at
Michael Richards?
The Michael Richards from Seinfeld and what have you. And we had a duo, and we played at the Troubadour back in 1969, and Doug Weston wanted to sign us to a contract and what have you.
So you were opening for musical acts?
We were.
A lot of, I'm finding this out, before the store opened, really officially in, 72, 73.
We were there the week that they opened, me and Michael Richards.
When Sammy opened
Sammy still owned the Comedy Store.
Right.
So Sammy's...
so Bursky was parking cars or something?
I don't remember, but it was Sammy's place.
Right. So, but before that, there was no real venue other than opening for musical acts.
Exactly.
Like Steve Martin as well.
And Richard Pryor and other people, and Lily Tomlin, other people
Troubadour.
played the Troubadour or the Ice House. Michael and I never got any opening act gigs. He went off and joined the military, so I was on my own, so I did a single, and I started to get bookings at the Ice House, and I would open for Jennifer Warnes, and I would open for... I opened for Loggins and Messina and Poco and John Sebastian.
At the Ice House?
No, that was later. At the Troubadour, I also opened for Neil Sedaka and Don McLean. Don McLean kind of discovered me at the Troubadour. And because of him, I went and I would occasionally open for him and open for other acts.
Well, that's interesting. So, who else? So, Cheech and Chong was also the big success story.
Oh, yeah, they were huge then.
Well, because it was, what's his name? Don Adler? Is that the...
Lou Adler.
Lou Adler. Well, it was sort of fascinating to me that they were made by the music industry. I mean, there was no comedy club, so all these music execs would be at the Troubadour because they had acts there.
Right.
And so Hollywood would come in. Hollywood was a much more intimate environment at that time.
It was.
Like, you could go to Tana's, you could go, these places were the places, and it wasn't all spread out, and then the business was intimate. So you could actually be at a place, and someone could see you, and it could change your life.
Exactly. And it did for many people.
So, all right, so you're doing the Troubadour. Then also I want to just, give some love to the Ice House, because I work there, a few times a year I'll go out there, and I never, it's right down the street. I do the store too, but I'll go do an hour or so. And that room actually has more history as a comedy room than any room in the city.
I think you're right.
And it's it's one of the greatest comedy rooms in the world still.
It is. It's wonderful.
It's amazing.
I was working there in the late 60s. Michael and I went up there a few times, and then I started in the early 70s actually getting paid to go there and perform.
What was your act?
I was a prop comic. I had a whole bunch of props, and different things. And I did satire on TV and commercials, one of those kind of acts. And it was mildly amusing. I got booked a lot. I did The Bottom Line in Max's Kansas City and the Troubadour and the Ice House and clubs and colleges and concerts.
What'd you have, 20 minutes?
Yeah, I had about 20 minutes.
That's all you needed when you were opener?
That's all I needed just an opener. I would do it, and man, I'm opening for Dave Mason. I was a big Dave Mason fan. Neil Sedaka and these people, and Don McLean discovers me and goes, I want my manager to handle you. And now Don McLean's manager is handling me. It was like big stuff.
Were you doing the shows like Dinah and Mike Douglas?
I did Mike Douglas show, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the Mike Douglas. I didn't do Dinah.
So you were a working comedian.
I was.
At 22, 23 years old, what? How old were you?
I was 22, 23, exactly.
So you're getting your comedy chops together. You're doing parts on television, little parts in movies.
Right.
And it's all starting to happen. But so McLean got you a booking agent, but you must have had a regular agent.
I had a regular agent, but when I signed with Don McLean's manager, he wanted me to stay away from doing these small parts in movies. He wanted to, groom me as a comedy star.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually had me turn down some things so that I could just concentrate on, on stand-up and write more material and what have you. And it was a good idea, but I was lazy. I didn't have the work ethic to keep writing.
Well, what was the sort of drug intake at that time?
Oh, huge. I drank a quart of vodka every day, nearly every day. I drank a quart of vodka nearly every day from 71 through 78.
Really?
And I did whatever you got, pills, blow, anything.
You were just that guy?
I was that guy. I was the party animal that could, not only do that, but drive. I would get in my car and drive around L.A.
Yeah.
I don't know how I didn't kill anybody.
Yeah, there's less people here then.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
It wasn't. You take Fountain. That's what you do.
One night I ran into all these cars at Sunset and San Vicente right in front of the cops, 2 sheriff's department guys, because this was L.A. County, property. There was no West Hollywood back then. L.A. sheriffs kind of ran Sunset Strip. Right next to them, I leapt out. I said, I talked to all the cars I had. Guys, I'm going to talk to you in a second. Let me deal with this. Officers, do me one favor and one only. It's Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve, 1975. Cuff me and take me in. They looked at me like I was insane, which I was. But I'm on so much adrenaline, I'm talking something like this.
Yeah.
I'm like on vodka and Chardonnay
and blow.
Quaaludes.
And Quaaludes back in the day.
And so I'm saying, cuff me and what are you talking about? I said, I've been pumping these brakes since back at Doheny. The brakes don't work. This car is defective. I'm going to sue them.
Yeah.
I'm going to sue the motor company, and I'm going to make $1 million. It will help me if you come. Well, calm down, son. Calm down. Have you been drinking? Of course, it's Christmas Eve. I had a couple beers. Whatever. Write it up whatever way you want. I'm rip-roaring drunk. But these brakes, I had them under the car checking the brakes.
Yeah.
Is there a leak in that master cylinder?
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up in the parking brake. Is a cable broken?
Yeah.
For all this bullshit, there was nothing wrong with the brakes.
Oh, my
I couldn't
God.
see the people. I was so blind drunk.
And
And they let me get in the car and go.
That was that's the roots of your political activism right there.
Yeah. Not only did they not arrest me, they let me get in the car and drive home. And the guy whose car I destroyed, I convinced him. I went up and I went over. He's dialing for a taxi. The guy whose car I totally destroyed, a Honda Civic. I almost killed the guy. And I said, I will not have it, sir. I hung up the phone on him. I'm driving you home. Mm-hmm. And he's on crutches because he had been in a skiing accident. He's driving with crutches and one foot in a cast.
And you destroyed his car.
I've destroyed his car. I said, I won't have it. I'm driving you home. But by the time I fill out all the paperwork with the cops, there's no more adrenaline left. So now, where do you live again? You're down in, you're Franklin Cohen. I'm going to get you home, my brother. And he's like, let me out of the car. He's like hitting me with his crutch. Let me out of the car. Because I'm like smashing into rearview mirrors on Sunset, not intentionally. Mm-hmm. I'm just whacking these mirrors with my right rearview mirror, breaking them, not intentionally. I can't control the vehicle now because I'm back to, being on all these substances.
And you got home.
And the cops aren't around. Yeah, the guy got out of the car.
You got lucky.
I made it home somehow.
And you're still living in the valley?
Yeah, I didn't make it to the valley. I crashed at a friend's house on Laurel Canyon. I couldn't even make it back to the valley.
Laurel Canyon's rough when you're wasted.
Oh, yeah. Lots of turns, apparently. You can't go straight up there, apparently.
All right, so now your career is sort of being driven towards being a stand-up.
Yeah.
I guess Steve Martin was doing props at that time.
Correct.
Gary Muledeer was doing props at that time.
Right.
Gallagher was around.
Correct.
So there's a bunch of prop guys.
Yep.
So, and you're partying you're running around Hollywood.
Yep.
At all the, you're in the mansions with all the freaks from the 70s.
Oh, yes.
Did you ever run into Manson?
That's interesting you should say. I actually met Charles Manson. I went out to the Spahn Ranch in 1969.
Come on.
68 or 69.
For what?
My friend James had a friend. I can't remember his name. James will remember. A guy I went to college with. James Jeremias and I said, let's go out to this ranch. My friend's living in one of those rooms above the thing. We went to visit this guy. This guy was shooting speed. This guy, I can't remember his name. We visited him. He said, we hung out with him, and he might have shot some speed. I never did that.
Yeah.
Neither did James, of course. And so he said, I got to go down the main house. Come down with me, and maybe we'll smoke a joint. Okay, went down the main house. There was a guy there with some long hair. He was kind of in charge. We smoked a joint with him. His name was Charlie, apparently.
Yeah.
And so we hung out with him and some other people. It was the Manson gang.
Yeah.
We hung out with the Manson gang.
Wow.
And then later learned who they were, when the Tate LaBianca murders occurred. But we hung out with them there back at the Spahn Ranch in the late 60s.
Isn't that interesting, though? Because that, to me, is like, I don't think people really understand just how this landscape, how Hollywood, like, I know it just from being here for a long time, but it goes back to the intimacy of the business, is that, like, if you're doing drugs in Hollywood in 69, 70, and you're hanging out in certain circles, you're going to know somebody out there.
Exactly.
It's just sort of like, there's this guy, Charlie, he's got this place, like, yeah, let's go party. Let's take a ride.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. And you sat there, you don't have any recollection of him being, like, throwing the gaze on you or anything?
No, not at all. He was just
dude.
some weird hippie guy that kind of seemed to be in charge, But all those people were there. I didn't know which one was, Krenwinkel, and this one was this one. I didn't really get their names. But when I saw the report, I remembered meeting him. I went, wow, that was the guy. He was the guy kind of in charge down at the main house.
But at that time, like a commune or that type of lifestyle was not that unusual.
Not at all unusual. There's nothing unusual about it. Only in retrospect, after the big horrible events happened, I went, oh my God, that was that guy, and those people were probably Patricia and this one and that one. And Tex and all of them.
Wow, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So so now you're in it. You're in the great explosion, the great post '60s explosion of just pure debauchery of Hollywood.
Yeah, the worst order.
Right. Well, so how much of you were still working. I mean, you're working through all this.
I was working, yeah. I had this ironclad rule. I went, wow, I never drink when I work.
Right.
I would actually say that, and I believed it. I would just drink 20 beers. That would be me not drinking.
Right.
I look back at some of these movies, like Blue Collar. I started to get parts in good movies with Richard Pryor.
Did you hang out with him much?
Yes, he was very nice.
Was he at the store?
Harvey Keitel. Huh?
Was he at the store when you were there? I mean,
he was at the store. Not when I was at the store. He might have been there, but I never saw him till later. I kind of got on to.
So you were at the store when Sammy owned it, and then Mitzi came in. Were you still working there?
I worked there a bit after that. Even as late as 1980, I still did stand up occasionally. I would go down to the La Jolla store or the Westwood store.
Oh, really?
I certainly would still. I would go on a bit. In the belly room or the other room, I can't remember.
The original room, the main room, the belly room. But it was that you didn't hang out there.
No, I stopped. I cut way back on doing it in about 76, not about, exactly 76, because I got married. I thought, wow, I'm married, and my wife's now suddenly pregnant. I don't want to spend all my life in saloons, because that's what comedy clubs were back then. There were saloons, which they are today. And so I'm gonna stop doing the stand-up. I'll just concentrate on the acting because I did a wonderful movie called Citizens Band with Jonathan Demme.
Yeah.
I'd done, Blue Collar with Yaphet Kotto and Harvey Keitel and Richard Pryor, directed by Paul Schrader. Wound up doing other Paul Schrader movies.
Which Paul Schrader movies?
I did Cat People. I did Hardcore. I did Blue Collar. I did, in fairly recent years, Autofocus. Paul Schrader's given me a lot of work.
That guy fascinates me.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he's hardcore, man.
He is. He's an amazing writer, an amazing director, and a dear friend. And he was giving me work, and then Jack Nicholson was a friend, and I got a job on Going South.
That's a pretty funny movie.
It was a very funny movie, and I was on that, and I was in such party mode then. This is how bad I was. I'm in the El Presidente Hotel with a drink in my hand, trying to outdrink Jack Nicholson's father figure, this guy, Shorty George Smith, who, you can't outdrink
actor?
this guy. He was not an actor. He worked for the railroad company in Jersey, but he was a guy that had a face. You could tell.
Oh, this was Jack's,
Jack
Nicholson's
the guy
right.
Yeah, he was married to Lorraine, Jack's aunt, actually. Jack thought was his sister for a while.
Oh, that's right. There's a complicated story.
Sister, daughter, sister, daughter.
Yeah.
And so, I tried to outdrink him. Who comes up behind me, takes a drink out of my hand, puts it down, said, "You got to get outside and get some fresh air and see the Durango sights, dude. You're drinking too much." Who was that person that thought I was too far gone? That was John Belushi. I was too far gone for John. John was like, "Dude, there's a limit. There's a friggin' limit."
Really?
Yeah.
So you were...
John saved my life. John and Judy got me out of that bar. I might have drank myself to death. I was trying to outdrink a guy you couldn't outdrink.
Oh, my God. So you were like, I can't, it's just amazing. How much, how much of the bonds of these groups? I mean, because now, even when I came in, when I was hanging out with Kennison and the Comedy Store.
Oh, wow. Great era, Sam. Yeah.
And I did, I was like 22 and I was doing a lot of blow, drinking a lot, living in the house up behind the Comedy Store that Mitzi owned.
Yes, that house. Yeah. Wow, that famous house. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
I lived there for about 8 months.
I still see Argus once in a while in some of that gang.
He goes up every night. Well, yeah, you see him at the,
Yeah.
Well, he goes on stage every night still.
Right.
And,
Unbelievable. God bless him.
And, well, who were the guys you hung out with back then? The comics.
I would see Jay there, Jay Leno. I would see David Letterman. I would see.
Were you buddies?
I was friendly with them. I didn't hang out with them after the thing, but when I was at the La Jolla Comedy Store, there were guys like that. I think Jay was there at the same time at that La Jolla, that condo that they had when you were playing
on
the
the
La Jolla.
beach.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe Letterman came when I was leaving or something, you know.
Right.
Because when I see those guys, I certainly remember. I remember the Invisible Man routine. You had that thing where you walk.
Yeah,
the Invisible Man. Tell him I can't see him. Yeah, they remember this stupid prop comic bit that I did.
Oh, that's hilarious. How much of the bonding that went on in the 70s was revolved around drugs?
A lot of it. When I got sober, which was 79, I really bottomed out in 78, but, you know, I kind of had a few days left of me in December of 79. But when I stopped hanging out in those places, I had to change friends to a certain extent. And that was good. Yeah. You know, because I was really headed for a toe tag.
What was the bottom like? I mean, the
bottom was I almost died. I had, said once again for the 50th time after having the DTs or what have you, not the 50th, but like the third or fourth time after I had gotten really sick, I went, okay, I'm just going to have a little wine with dinner. I'll be real careful. And then 2 weeks after that was the last time I went out in 78 in a big way. 2 weeks after I'll have a little wine with dinner, I was in full-blown, a gram of blow and a, vodka tonic and what have you and blackout. And I woke up after that going, I can't take the DTs again. I called up this doctor. I said, I need some medicine for the thing. Can I get some Valium? And my regular doctor wasn't in. The other guy prescribed to me Thorazine, which doesn't mix well with liquor. I think he was trying to kill me. I'm not sure. So I kept taking them, waiting for that Valium kind of, sand the rough edge off the hangover thing. Yeah. And it wasn't happening like that. Thorazine is a very different drug. Took 1, 2, 3, 4. Kept taking them, not as a suicide attempt. It was I took about 8 of them. And then finally went out and finally was awoken by my then wife, my first wife, wonderful lady. She slapped me around, not for the usual reason. She slapped me around saying, wake up, your color's bad, your breathing's bad. There's something wrong. There's something really wrong.
Were you both using?
Yeah, me more than her. Yeah. She was kind of a social 70s kind of a person, but I was the real hardcore. Mm-hmm. And so Cindy Williams actually drove me to Cedars-Sinai, and I made it. They gave me some Epicac and got out whatever the remainder of the pills was there. But my heart and lungs were shutting down. I was dying. God. And I made it to Cedars and lived, and I went, I will never. And I had a little 1-year-old daughter, and she was trying to hold me. I'm in this bed with all these tubes and IVs and going in. She couldn't get to me because of the tubes. I went, this is as low as a person can go. My daughter, who I cherish beyond anything, and my wife, who I love, they can't really hold me because of the tubes that are going into me. Mm. Never again. Never again, being relative. For a couple of days in 79, I tried a few beers and half a bottle of wine. It just made me sick, so I stopped.
And then you got straight with it.
I got straight with it. Yeah. But 78 was the bottom when I almost died, September 30th of 78. And it's amazing because that again.
But that's the year you did Going South. That's the year you did that Blue Collar came out, Going South came out. So at the worst of your using, you did some big movies.
Yeah, and then I got that same year, just a short time after that, I got this movie, The In-Laws. So I had to go off to another country, Mexico. We went down to Cuernavaca to shoot that.
That's right, you played the FBI guy.
Right.
And I love that fucking movie.
And I'm going down there to thank you. I love that movie, too.
Oh, it's
Peter
a great
Falk and
movie.
Alan Arkin.
Oh, my God.
So I'm going down with Peter Falk and Alan Arkin, going down to meet them there. They're already there. And I'm going to work on this show. And, they got free drinks on the plane, what have you, and I know I'm going to get high, but somehow I don't. I'm just done with it. Yeah. And I go down and do that movie totally straight, and it did very well for me. It got me other work because it was a very good movie. I had a small part in it, but it helped me.
But you had this, it's a very specific thing that you do. There's a weird kind of almost, when you do comedy, there's an earnestness to your buffoonism.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
I made a career out of that. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. That's my career in a nutshell. An earnestness to his buffoonism. Exactly. That's my mantra.
I'm not being insulting.
Not at all.
Because you are a type.
I am.
But, when it comes to that, but like working with those guys, Alan Arkin, oh, God, he's too much.
The greatest, and Peter.
Yeah.
Could I ask you something? On the night of the 14th, did you actually take that gun and put it back in the drawer?
I mean, Peter was the greatest.
And you did Columbo, right?
I did Columbo, yeah.
But those were like
a couple of them.
You did a lot of small TV parts.
Yeah, a lot.
Unbelievable. It's just like it's unbelievable the career you had, and everyone knows you. I mean, you're one of those guys.
I've been around since 1967. So yeah, in this town, I know a lot of people. A lot of people know me. So I'm very lucky.
And when your father saw you, did he live long enough to see you take?
No, he didn't see me do much. He saw me do a little. When he was still alive, I wasn't getting much acting work, and I desperately wanted to work in TV and film. So I started working as an assistant cameraman, and had something of a career doing that. A first assistant cameraman.
Mm-hmm.
And that was good work and paid well.
Union work?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I couldn't get in the IATSE, but I got in another union called NABET.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a lot of commercials and stuff. These companies, Wakeford Orloff and Kaleidoscope, they did a lot of commercials. I worked on 1 million commercials and a few low budget movies, and I started to, do well as an assistant and made some good dough. And so I thought that was it. And then the show Room 222 beckoned.
Karen Valentine.
That's right. And James L. Brooks was head writer, and I think he liked me. Somebody did, yeah.
Oh my God!
And great writer,
yeah,
great
but it's
director.
like I used to watch that with my parents.
Yeah,
my recollection of that is like as a little kid, I had no idea that James L. Brooks. I mean, it's so weird that these people they start and they stay.
I know.
The guys that lock in, they really lock in.
They lock in.
That's unbelievable.
Brilliant from the get-go. So suddenly I had this much easier job of acting back in the early '70s. So I put the camera work aside and just focused on the acting. And then the acting wasn't getting me the parts I really wanted. Then I did the stand-up, so I could write my own part, if you will, by writing a stand-up act. And that was kind of... Then, again, I got married, and the stand-up just didn't seem like the right life because I was trying to straighten up and what have you. And so I stopped doing that and just focused on the acting. And that's been it since... 70-something.
Well, it's interesting because in the beginning, you can do anything. I mean, you're a real character actor. I mean, you can do straight roles.
That's very nice. Thank you.
But like real quickly, Monty Hellman and that whole crew and Warren Oates and those guys. Before we get out of the '70s, I mean, Monty Hellman really made two important movies. And what was it?
Two-Lane
Blacktop and the Cockfight.
Right.
And then like working with guys like that. I mean. And even Paul Schrader, who has gone on to, he wrote a lot of movies, and he's a very, challenging character. That there was a sense of art in the '70s that really defined a whole generation of filmmakers. I mean, were you conscious of that? I mean,
very much so. I wanted to work with all those people at BBS, and I worked with Bob Rafelson on a movie called Stay Hungry, which was Arnold's first movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger was in that, and Sally Field was in it, and lots of other good people were in it, and so I worked on that. And, I was working with Monty Hellman. I was working with Jack Nicholson. I was working with Paul Schrader. So I was,
And they were all aware that they were changing the game in a way.
Yeah, it's that wonderful book, Easy
Riser
Riders
and
Raging Bulls.
Yeah.
It's a very good book, and I think pretty accurate by what I know of things at that time.
And when the break came, I mean, I guess St. Elsewhere is the biggest thing, right?
The big break. Before that, my kind of mini breaks were Mary Hartman. I was the deaf mute on that, but that was such a popular show. I'd walk through the airport, and people would recognize me, and it led to some work. And the next kind of mini break was The In-Laws, and then to a lesser extent Cat People, but then St. Elsewhere. From then on, I'd have to really scrub bad to not be able to work after you do a show like St. Elsewhere.
And you were a made guy then. I mean, that was
exactly.
Yeah, but like Mary Hartman. I mean, everyone who was on, Fred Willard was on that. Martin Mull, right? I mean,
right.
I mean, like everybody that became that crew was Harry Shearer involved in that? Where'd you meet those guys?
Those guys I met Harry Shearer because I was a fan of the Credibility Gap, and I knew David L. Lander a bit, and I knew Michael McKean a bit. Maybe I knew Harry first. I can't remember, but I knew those guys. I loved the Credibility Gap.
Yeah.
They were so good. And then through Christopher Guest, I guess I got to know them better.
How'd you know Guest?
I met him through his sister, Alyssa Guest. And I actually met him around that same time through Tony Hendra when he was, Tony Hendra was editor of the National Lampoon.
Yeah.
And they were doing the Radio Dinner album, or maybe they had already done that. They're doing more
So what year's
radio
that? Was
stuff.
the late '70s?
Yeah, this is the mid-'70s now.
All right, so you're still high.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. But they were in New York, wasn't it? Wasn't Hendra in New York?
He was, and that's where I met Chris Guest for the first time.
With the Lampoon, the Lemming stuff, and the radio show.
Yeah, and I was friendly with Harry
Is that where you met
Nilsson,
Belushi too?
I met John at with TV, this group that was Michael Schamberg, and it was Hudson Marquez, and it was Harold Ramis, and it was
Where were they?
Alan. They were in L.A. This was in L.A. They had a place on Robertson, Alan Rucker, and they were these people that did this kind of guerrilla video with 3/4-inch decks. 3/4 was like small equipment at that time. You know, they would do these things kind of, you know, and they had some portable 3/4-inch decks, which were unheard of, or what have you. They did a wonderful video thing, a show about the Oscars with Lily Tomlin that's worth watching. It holds up to this day. They did lots of these guerrilla.
So this is like right after Chicago, John Belushi.
Yes.
So it's before New York. And
right.
Yeah.
He got Saturday Night Live right around that same time, and he had done one of these videos for those guys at TV, and I met him then, and then, you know, saw him on Saturday Night Live and went, Jesus Christ, I had no idea how immensely talented he was. I never saw him at Second City, you know, but I heard he was great, and he was great, and then we worked together on Going South and became good friends.
And you mentioned Harry Nilsson?
Harry Nilsson and I were pals. We met in L.A. years before.
You were really in with the fucking hardcore.
Yeah. Harry Nilsson one night. No, it's one afternoon in New York. When New York, he said, "Meet me at 6. I'll come by in a cab and we'll go over. We're gonna have dinner with some friends." I went, "Okay." I get in the cab and we go with Harry Nilsson and we stop at the Dakota.
Yeah. Oh,
I go,
out.
No, it couldn't be.
Yeah, right.
He said, "We're gonna have dinner with friends." It's not those friends.
No.
Go up in the elevator. Door opens. "Hello, Yoko. Look who's here. It's Hattie and Una. And who's this bloke? Wait a minute. I know you. You're in Mary Hartman.
Come on.
Yoko, it's the deaf mute from Mary Hartman." He was like asking me questions about Louise Lasser. He's acting like slightly starstruck about the show.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep my face from cracking.
Oh, my God.
Because, you know, I'd hung out with Ringo and love Ringo, and he was a friend. I met him through Harry.
Yeah.
But I'd never met Paul or George or
John.
At
and now
that
you're
point.
at his house.
I'm at his house having macrobiotic food that Yoko made.
Oh, my God.
And Sean's asleep in the other room. It's like, it was crazy.
It was
crazy
it was
time.
a good dinner?
It was a great dinner.
Yeah.
A great time.
Because he's a funny guy, right?
Very funny, very charming, and very open, kind of like, "Harry, it's not like it was," he said. "You know, we don't have to, when we come into Kennedy Airport, there's not, you know, throngs of young women waiting anymore.
Right.
I can move freely around New York," he said.
Yeah.
You know, in an ominous
yeah.
way. You know, I'd go walk through Central Park with the baby, and we push the pram, and there's no problem. Nobody bothers us.
Oh.
And then his sense of freedom was perhaps misdirected.
But how many years after that? That was
This was 76.
Not too long after, huh? When did he die?
Yeah, it was a few years later. It was years later.
that's sad.
But I guess you can't live in. He lived the better life not living in fear of that, I suppose. You know, I wish he was around longer, but he didn't want to live in fear of something like what did happen or anything.
Yeah.
He just moved freely, and what an incredible man.
That must have been so overwhelming to be there and to be. And Harry, like, I just started getting into Harry. I mean, I got the box set over there, and I just started buying his records. I'm into vinyl.
Amazing! What a great singer-songwriter.
I never knew, you know, the depth of it, and I just started getting into it because and I was seeing, like, there's a vinyl resurgence. So you start seeing these people people start talking about Harry Nilsson. So I start buying this stuff, and I'm like, holy fuck, that guy could really sing. And
he could sing.
Oh my!
And
God.
the sweetest guy that ever lived.
And I just watched that documentary. Did you watch it?
No.
There's a new documentary about, you know, the sort of arc of his life and his career.
I gotta watch that. I'm a big
Were you
fan.
friends with him till the end? Yeah.
I was, very much so. We hung out regularly, and he and Ringo and I would spend time together, and he was a great friend, and Una, his widow, a great friend, and I knew his kids a little bit. I haven't seen Una, the kids, in a while, but she's since remarried, and she's doing fine, but what a great guy
It's an interesting doc. You should watch it on Netflix because it really tracks, you know, his career in all its phases, and it really kind of goes into a little bit that friendship with Lennon and that record they made together, and how, like, there was this sort of weird, you know, competitiveness between them, and how they pushed each other to the limits, you know, creatively. And it's very interesting because it suggests that during the recording of that record, you know, John had, you know, sort of pushed Harry too hard, and that, you know, it shredded his vocal cords.
something did happen to his vocal cords, and I don't know. It might have happened then. I never knew when it happened, but something definitely happened.
Yeah, you should watch that. All right, so back to you. St. Elsewhere.
Yep.
Turns everything around.
Turns everything around. Then I was kind of set for life. After you're on a show like that, Hill Street Blues, St. Elsewhere, L.A. Law, you have to screw up in such a big way to not work the rest of your life.
And this happened when you were sober. So, I mean, you were kind of, you were on a good path.
I was on a good path. I was several years sober, and I got the best job at that point in my career. And I cherished every minute. I was wise enough at that point to not go, oh, well, finish me up so I can get home. I was like happy to be there every day, walking through the hallways of the St. Eligius, set, whistling every day and smiling. It was a great job. Bruce Paltrow was a great friend, and he really took a character that wasn't at all a regular. I tried out for a regular part in that show and didn't get it. So they threw me a bone, gave me this character, Ehrlich, that was in 1 episode. Then it was in 2, then it was in 3, then it was in 6. And pretty soon it was a regular and had a certain amount of focus of the show was on that character.
And so when did your father pass?
He died in 1970.
So before everything.
He didn't get to see that. I wish he had.
How about your mom?
She died in 98, so she got to see all of that stuff.
She got to see the grandkids and everything.
She met. She met my 2 grown kids and got to know them wonderfully.
So you've got 2 grown kids and a younger one.
Yeah, I've got a 36-year-old daughter, wonderful young lady, this eco-hero who's beyond me in a green sense and in many other ways. And my son, wonderful son, also a green activist, but he's an electrical engineer. And he's this genius beyond description, computer coder and everything. And he's given me 2 wonderful grandkids.
And they turned out all right.
They turned out great.
That's a good story.
And my 14-year-old daughter, Hayden, she sings like an angel and plays the guitar, and she's the apple of my eye now, as are my grown kids still. I'm just blessed. I've got 3 wonderful kids and a wonderful wife.
And you must have a pretty good genetic disposition.
I guess so, to live through. Mark, I never thought I'd live this long.
It 64. Sound like you should.
When I'm 64, will you still need me?
You're 64.
I'm 64. I never thought I'd live to 44. Then 54. Then 64?
Yeah.
I just never thought I'd make it.
And you never stopped working. So let's talk about the relationship with these guys. I find them I had Catherine O'Hara in here.
Oh, God, I love that
And
woman.
Michael McKean I talked to.
I know, you just had Michael fairly recently.
Yeah. And, though that crew, Christopher Guest, Bob Balaban, Shearer, the Spinal Tap guys, and the movies that Guest does, there's something transcendent about what happens in those movies. Fred Willard, that I don't know if it's the improvisation or what, or just there's a type of comedy that goes on with that crew that runs very deep.
I think so.
And how did that relationship sort of build with you and them?
I met Chris in the early 70s, as I said, and then I started to work with Harry Shearer and I think Michael a bit. I was friends with them, Michael and David L. Lander, Laverne and Shirley. I'm hanging out with them there, and I'm doing loop group stuff, kind of that ADR, automated dialogue replacement they do on movies. They do a thing where for crowd scenes and other individual lines, like turning on a radio in a movie or a PA system, you have to hire an actor to come in, a Screen Actors Guild actor, to do those voices.
Yeah.
So I did that work with Harry for years, and we became friendly doing that in many other ways. We did other kind of live shows together. We did Hollywood Primary with Chris Guest at first, and some of those. I think Harry was part of it the whole time. I can't remember that, but Harry is a brilliant, brilliant comedian, brilliant writer, brilliant actor, and so is Chris and Michael and David L. Lander. So I was friendly with all those guys from the Credibility Gap, and then suddenly, Rob, who's an old friend too, a great friend, they're deciding to do this show.
Did you grow up with him, or did you...
No, but I got to know him in the 70s. I was a big fan of All in the Family, what have you,
and Albert too.
Dad. I know Albert a bit, too. Yeah, I met him through some friends that went to Carnegie Tech with him. And so I'm a big fan of Albert, huge fan of his, and got to be friends with him, too.
Yeah, he's funny.
Very
and so
funny.
You and Rob, so this come to Spinal Tap?
Yeah,
somehow?
Then they go, hey, we're going to do this thing. I know you still play the drums a little, don't you? I said, yeah, I haven't played in a while, but I'm sure I can play whatever you're doing. He said, we're going to do this thing. It's like a flashback, and you're going to be the first drummer. You die in a bizarre gardening accident. Okay, whatever. When do we do it? Tuesday. Show up at this studio. We did it. it was part of really just the presentation they were using to get the money to do the movie.
Right.
It wasn't supposed to be in the movie, but it was such deliberately low-res stuff for the flashback kinescope-looking thing that they said, well, we're going to keep that in the movie, the real movie, now that we're doing the actual movie.
Right, right.
And they did it, and what a wonderful movie. It's one of the best movies, if not the best movie I've ever been in. Small part, but I don't care.
Yeah.
It's sheer genius still.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I'd like to talk to Rob. So but when you work with on Mighty Wind or the other one, the For Your Consideration and
Best in Show.
Now, what is the environment when you guys work together? How does Chris run a set, and how much improv is there?
There's a lot of improv. He gives you a 25-page treatment that in the first movies that I spoke about, Everything But Family Tree, it was him and Eugene Levy writing that treatment, doing all the heavy lifting and putting that time and effort into writing that treatment. Then when you go on the set, perfect example, the first movie I did was called Best in Show. There's a line of stage direction, if you will, in the treatment says, Jerry and Cookie Fleck try to check into the hotel. Their credit card doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that's the scene. And then the rest, it's like I'm there with Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, so I'm not worried about is there going to be any dead silence.
Yeah.
I just kind of try to be a real guy at a clerk at a hotel, and your credit card isn't working, and do all this stuff to just try to keep it real.
Yeah.
And then Chris says, and we're going to do a thing in this closet too, where you talk about the cleaning supplies, and then you're going to eventually show them into the closet. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And there's just lines of dialogue.
Huh.
I mean, not of dialogue, of stage direction
right.
with no dialogue. Then you fill in the dialogue, and occasionally Chris will, in Family Tree, they had a few lines written. They had some lines to build to a certain joke with a line. But for the early ones, I don't remember any lines written for my character. But who else but Chris Guest would allow you the freedom in the movie A Mighty Wind, for instance, where I'm playing a Swedish-American guy, this PBS kind of producer, to suddenly start spouting Yiddish.
Yeah.
Most other guys would go, they take off the headset at Video Village, go, I'll talk to him. What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck? You're a Swedish guy. Why are you speaking Yiddish? Do it again without that. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Chris didn't say that. He said, wonderful, we're going to move in tighter. Let's do another one.
So you came up with the Yiddish bit?
Yeah, it just occurred to me sitting there because I had nothing planned. I went, what is funny about this? But I figured Bob Balaban is sitting across from me. His name is Steinblum, I think.
Yeah.
So I figured I'm one of those guys, those Goyish guys that's trying to ingratiate themselves to some Jewish guy by peppering the conversation with Yiddish inappropriately. So that's what I did, and Balaban just sit there because he wasn't expecting it, looking at me like, what the fuck are you doing? But Chris loved it, so we did it again and again from a few different angles, and that was it.
I'm sort of fascinated with Balaban. He's he's a funny little guy.
Amazing. And so good in everything. We just did this thing, Muhammad Ali's Greatest Fight, and he played this lawyer, and he was smoking great, as he always is.
Yeah. I mean, he's been around a long time, too.
Forever.
Like, he was in Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy.
In the bathroom.
That young guy in the bathroom.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Amazing.
So when did because, I interviewed you once, I believe, when I was on Air America, about...
I think you did.
About the car movie.
Yes. Yeah. About who killed the electric car.
Yeah. When did it just... Were you struck by the desire to facilitate change or to live a different life?
Yeah, that started really in 1970. That started with the first Earth Day. Yeah, I started recycling. I started composting. I became a vegetarian.
But still out of your mind on drugs and alcohol.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, it's great.
Great, vegetarian, You've
been a vegetarian that long?
Yeah, vegetarian addict activist. Yeah. But I bought my first electric car in 1970.
Wow.
It was not much of a car. It was a Taylor Dunn, which was, really like a golf cart with a windshield wiper and a horn. But I drove around the valley with it. Occasionally I would venture over the hill, which was a real sight to behold, going over the Cahuenga Pass at 15 miles an hour.
Because they couldn't do any better, right?
Yeah. It was a little tiny, slow vehicle.
Well, what do you think that was? I mean, because you knew you were living a life of, insanity. Yeah, do you think initially it was just to sort of give your life purpose or to ground you in something?
Nothing was more important to me than the environment. The acting I love, and that has, a great deal of meaning for me. But I really, back then, thought, we got to do something. This air is horrible in L.A. Horrible.
It's different now.
Much better, because it all worked. All the stuff we hope would work did work. Catalytic converters on cars, combined cycle gas turbines.
Emissions testing.
All of it. Spray paint booths instead of those VOCs going up in the LA air. And now we have 4 times the cars since 1970, millions more people, and a fraction of the smog. That's a success story.
Right. Now, if we can just get rid of some of the cars.
Exactly.
If we just get public transport. And that was, to me, that was the most disturbing element of I don't know if it was covered in that film. I don't know where I learned it, that, literally, the public transportation infrastructure of the city was abandoned because of car companies. Because of politics.
Yep.
And business politics.
They had the red car, and they bought up that system here in L.A. and many other towns, and they dismantled it, and they threw the red cars out in Redondo Harbor, actually. And there's a reef there where you can fish off the old decomposing red cars. Yeah. There's a guy that was harbor master. He was on the harbor commission. He told me about it.
It's insane and disturbing that there's not a functioning, a convenient public transportation.
Well, it's better now.
Yeah.
Now we have not only the red line, but the gold line, the blue line, and the silver line.
Do people use them?
All the time. Here's my pass. I take it. I live in Studio City, so for me it's so easy to go to that universal stop there.
Right.
I've got the red line bus right at Laurel and Ventura, near where I live in Studio City, so I hop on that, or take my electric car and drive to the universal stop, and from there I can go all over the city.
So you do that.
I do it all the time. When I did that David Mamet play a year ago in November at the Taper, it was ridiculous to even take the electric car there. I wouldn't have dreamt of it, because they charge you for parking. You get a discount because you're doing a play, but you still have to pay for it. I wouldn't have dreamt of doing that. I got my pass. I have my annual pass I buy every year. So I took it there and back. I could read my lines, study my lines on the way there and the way home. Every day, every night, I rehearsed and did the play. I take it, forget about the play. I do it all the time. When I have to go to downtown, when I have to go to Hollywood, I'm working perfect example. I'm doing this Amazon show called Betas.
Yeah.
We're shooting in Culver City. I wouldn't dream of taking my electric car there. I take the red line to Metro 7th there, and I take the Expo line right to Culver City.
How long does it take?
It's about an hour. But what does it take in rush hour?
45 minutes, yeah.
It'll take you an hour and a half at 9 o'clock to get there.
And you actually have time. You can actually have some personal time.
I do the crossword.
Yeah.
I sit there and learn my lines and do the crossword.
As opposed to yell at people in your car.
Exactly. Get all stressed out.
But your activism goes. It seems to go deeper than that. I mean, you're involved in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
With what exactly do you do?
I'm on a lot of environmental boards. I'm on the board of the Coalition for Clean Air. They do a lot of good work. Part of the reason the air is cleaner today than it was in 1970, with millions more people and 4 times the cars, is because of the Coalition for Clean Air. It's one of the biggest champions.
How green is your house?
Oh, it's very green. I have a 1936 home that was very energy inefficient. I made it incredibly efficient, and that I bought in 1988. But we are now building a LEED Platinum home. We're going to go on to another level of green, which is lower energy use than the house I'm in now, lower water use and everything, more room to grow vegetables and what have you, and fruit trees. And that house we're working on right now, that's about a mile east of where I currently live, and we're building my wife and I, a LEED Platinum home. We're doing a show about it called On Begley Street that details all the, successes and failures of trying to do this totally green home.
Guys, who has one? I was at Sam Simon's house, and he's got a full on.
He's got green everything. So
Right.
Sam's a dear friend. He's got great solar. He's got at least 10, maybe a 20,000 gallon rainwater catchment system.
Yeah, and I think his entire home runs on solar.
That's right.
Yeah, does yours?
Oh yes. Not the current home, because I have shading to the south. I can only fit on this small roof 6 kilowatts of solar, and there's a lot of shading starting in October and ending in March from the house to my south.
Right.
And so because of that, I can't get fully off the grid. But the new home, I will be off the grid.
Huh. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And you use you do the gray water thing?
Yeah, I've got gray water at my. The new home, we have gray water. The current home, I have rainwater, but only 600 gallons of rainwater storage. The new home, I'll have 10,000 gallons of rainwater storage and gray water to supplement it. Solar hot water, 10 kilowatts of excellent Panasonic solar panels, a Lutron system, which is this wonderful system that makes all the lighting and shades very energy efficient. It times it by the sunlight and the time of day and what have you.
Now, in terms of this, evolving into a practical way of life for more people.
Right.
I mean, what really has to happen? Because it's got to cost a small fortune to do what you're doing.
Exactly, and that's why I urge people to do it exactly the way I did it. People regularly come up and, I can't afford a fancy electric car like you or a big 6-kilowatt system. I went, good. Neither could I in 1970 when I started. I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't go into debt buying 1970 solar panels I couldn't afford. It took me 20 years to do that kind of stuff. 2 decades. Do what I did in 1970, the cheap and easy stuff. You know, I started recycling, I started composting. Nowadays, you can buy these energy-efficient light bulbs, energy-saving thermostat, weather stripping that's easy to put up, you know, bike riding when weather and fitness permits. I showed you my transit pass, public transportation, home gardening, home composting. Everything that I just mentioned, Mark, cheap, and easy. You do that stuff, you will save money. Then maybe you move up the ladder and do a medium-ticket item like a solar oven or a rain barrel to collect some rainwater. Then you move up the ladder, maybe do some attic insulation.
What do you use the rainwater for?
You can use it for irrigation. To irrigate your fruit trees or your
And how
plants.
much gardening how much do you eat from your garden?
A lot. A lot being like 25-30%.
Right.
You know, I go to the store a fair amount too.
Yeah.
But you know, I grow a lot. I had 2 great crops of corn. You know, I had one in June, July. Then I had some August, September.
Do you
September,
can? Do you pickle? Do you?
I don't. I either give it away if I don't eat it fresh. I like everybody to have it real fresh and not canned. So if I've got extra tomatoes or extra something or extra corn, I give it away. But I eat most of it. I don't give much away.
And so in terms of like, because you seem very open-hearted about this whole thing and not proselytizing or condescending about it. I mean, is the hope that that people wake up to this still? I mean, in terms of, do you think that there's a shift possible that people will live like this in a large way?
I think so. I think there's 2 big lies about the environment. One is that there's no problem. You don't have to do anything. We're going to be just fine. This is, just a natural thing we're going through, and it'll be fine. It won't harm us or any other species. Don't worry. That's, I think, a mistaken notion. The other one is that it's so far gone you can't do anything. There's nothing we can do.
Right.
Forget about it. Those 2 lies at the opposite end of the spectrum, I think, don't serve us. I think there's much you can do. I think, and some people criticize me, Ed's talking about light bulbs and thermostats, and we got some serious problems with climate change. That's, like putting holding this handkerchief up to a massive head wound.
Right.
They're correct, it is. But sometimes you've got to hold a hanky to the massive head wound to make it to the emergency room. Yeah. And that's what we got to do. We got to do that for now and get to the major surgery we have to do, which is getting off fossil fuels and getting to more sustainability. But energy efficiency is the road to more sustainability and to more, renewable energy.
And you think that the reason why there's apathy and cynicism is primarily because of the reinforcement of the fossil fuel paradigm and corporate interests, through advertising, through misinformation, through everything. Because you sort of wonder, like myself, I'm going to do some work on my house, and I'm just me. I don't use much, but I still, I use energy efficient light bulbs. But
Good for you.
But I haven't taken any real steps towards, really thinking about that, because there's part of me that thinks like, what difference is it really going to make?
Right. That's what most people think. People are resistant to change. That's human nature. So the fossil fuel industry doesn't have to work that hard to convince people to do nothing.
Right, but the car thing is starting to change. I mean, people, it's a valid option to get a hybrid or to get a plug.
Yeah, and some of the hybrids have a plug, like the Chevy Volt, which is a great car, which you can drive 40 miles on pure electric. Then you can drive to New York in it if you want on gasoline. So it's a perfect one-size-fits-all car.
Which one do you drive?
I have the RAV4 outside. It's a 2002 RAV4.
Toyota.
It's a Toyota pure electric that I still drive around.
How much does it eat up a lot of electricity?
It would take a fair amount if I was just using the grid, but I plug it in, on my home, which has a lot of solar, and I can buy power cheap at night, which you can sign up for if you have an electric car. You can get what's called a time of use meter, so you can get an 80-mile range, charge. That's how far the car will go, 86 miles. You can get that amount of range for about $3. $3 worth of power. So that's a pretty good price. A gallon of gas is how much now?
Something.
Yeah.
3 to 4.
360, three something, and you're going 80 some odd miles for maybe $3. That's not sometimes a little bit less. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
If you just plug it into the grid.
Yeah.
And if you've invested, as I have years ago in 1990, I invested in solar, so I own that system. I'm not making any payments on it.
Right.
I own it. And so that's a good way to charge my car and run my house.
And this stuff is really, apart from anything else, career-wise, the most important stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's very important to me. That's why I serve on so many boards. I'm on Don Henley's Walden Woods Project Board, the Thoreau Institute. I'm on a lot of different boards and other stuff. It's not just the environment. I'm on the board of the Midnight Mission, trying to help people downtown L.A. Get their lives back together. And, I try to be of service. I've been so lucky. You want to be of service in every way you can.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why you're in such good mental and physical spirits.
You're very kind.
Thanks
you too, buddy.
Thanks, man. I'm trying. I don't eat well right now, but I'm not going to get into me. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you, Mark.
That's our show. Thank you for listening. How great was that conversation, man? Didn't you want to go to those parties? Didn't you want to hang out at the Manson Ranch for a minute just to see what was up? The Spawn Movie Ranch? Hey, Charlie. So you're Charlie. He didn't know. Ed Begley. Real treat. Thank you for listening. I am Marc Maron, if you forgot. This is WTF. Go to WTFpod.com for all your WTF pod needs. We're going to be updating the site, making things easier, making things more interesting, providing some new shit. As I said, if you upgrade to premium, very shortly you will be hearing some special behind-the-scenes, deep-cut WTF picks from myself and my producer, Brendan McDonald. We'll be chatting as premium content for you premium people. You're all premium to me, but you know what I'm saying. We do a bunch of those, some other stuff coming in. What else can I tell you? You know what to do, man. You know what to do. Fucking high cholesterol, dude. I ate oatmeal this morning.